So welcome everybody to the webinar that we have this afternoon, which is an introduction to Tornelo. Tornelo is the internet hosting platform that will be hosting the World Youth and Cadets Championships coming up shortly, and also the FIDE Olympiad for players with a disability. So these two important FIDE events coming up shortly have meant that a number of people are interested in finding out a little bit more about Tornelo, and to help you understand what Tornelo is, how it works, and how you can get your players involved. We've got a short webinar this evening or this afternoon. It's about a 45-minute session. I'll be presenting some aspects of Tornelo, just the main features and a bit of an overview. We won't go into too much depth, but we'll just give you a bit of a taste for the sorts of things that Tornelo can do and how it's going to be working in these upcoming FIDE tournaments. There will be a time for questions at the end. So if you have any questions, please type them in the chat. You can put them in the chat on the way through, or you can save them up for the end of the tournament. Before we get started, I would like to introduce Marco Biagioli, who is the Chief Arbiter for the World Youth and Cadets Championships. Marco, did you want to say a couple of words before we begin?
Yes, thank you, David. Just to inform that after the end of this webinar, there will be two similar webinars tomorrow and the day after in different time schedule to fulfill with every time zone. I think 3 p.m. Manila and 3 p.m. San Francisco. So if any one of you will need further explanation, they can also join the next seminars. And just in case, we will email all of you this evening. So if you require any other clarification, you can just ask us and we will be happy to reply to any question.
Okay, thank you very much, Marco. That's excellent, and thank you for helping to organize this session this afternoon. So let's get moving, and we're going to start off with a question. Why is it called Tornelo? So Tornelo combines two words together. We combine the word tournament and ELO. And when Tornelo was first created back in 2008, between 2008 and 2012, we created it as a web control center, or a web platform for running a number of chess tournaments for schools and for youth that we had in an academy in Australia. And in those days, there were no rapid ratings available. And so we needed a way of producing ratings for all of our players in the over-the-board tournaments that they were running. So we've combined the words tournament and ELO to come up with Tornelo, or Tornelo. So fundamentally, Tornelo is a pairings program. It is entirely online, so it's 100% cloud-based. And it was a pairings program that, as I said, was built for over-the-board chess tournaments primarily. And since March of 2020, when COVID swept the world and turned all of our chess tournaments upside down, we started building an online game server that would assist organizers to run what we call scheduled arbiter-led events online. And we couldn't find any platforms that would allow us to run these arbiter-led events. There were plenty of platforms that could run a kind of a hands-off on-demand event, and people could play chess online, but there was nowhere that would give us the same experience as an over-the-board tournament. And so what we're trying to do with Tornelo is to build the same experience as an over-the-board tournament, but with the convenience of playing chess online. All right, so the online game server is free to use. We've got now about 400 organizations who are up and running using Tornelo for their online tournaments. But obviously there are also still a number of organizations who are using it for over-the-board events, or I guess the way that we think things are going to be going in the future and what we're kind of preparing for is more hybrid style events where you might have hubs, or you've got some people playing online and some people playing over the board. And having a pairings program and a game server all built into one is going to be something that will manage those processes really, really smoothly with any luck. Tornelo has been purpose-built with organisers and arbiters in mind. So I kind of built it for myself, starting in 2008 through 2012. And I'm much more a tournament organizer or an arbiter than I am a player, certainly these days. So it does kind of try and keep the organisers and the arbiters front and centre. And so any features that we're looking at building are going to be the ones that we tend to look for. How can we improve the lives of the organisers and the arbiters? How can we make this tournament platform, so that you as an organiser or an arbiter can run a better event and, of course, attract more players eventually. We have been around for a while, and during that time we've managed about 12,000 events on the platform. So even though the online game server is new, and we always get the question, oh, we've never heard of this before, this is brand new, are you sure it's going to be stable? Well, yes, we're pretty confident. I mean, we've run a large number of high stakes events over the last 6 months, but the platform itself has been around for over 10 years. So yeah, we are very confident in the stability, and some of those events that we've been able to run, the European Youth Championships, the FISU World Universities Championships, the Balkan Youth Championships, some very large, 750 players in playing all at the same time in the European Youth Championships means that we're quite confident of running all sorts of large scale and high stakes events. There are 3 different users who come on Tornelo, or 3 different roles that people play when they're on Tornelo. Those are the roles of the player, the arbiter, or the organizer. And so what I'm going to do is go through over the next half hour or so just a bit of an insight into each of those 3 different roles, so that you can see the platform from the player's perspective, then you can see it from the arbiter's perspective, and we'll have a little bit of a chat about what it might look like from the organizer's perspective as well, so that you get to see all three of those views. So the first one, of course, is for the players. Okay, so let me just now step out of this presentation and into Tornelo itself. And what we see here is the front page once you go into the application aspect itself. So we do have a kind of a static homepage, which gives you a lot more information about Tornelo, but then we come into the actual application itself, and it looks a little bit like this. This is a space where users can browse through the different events that are in progress or coming up. Once you are an administrator for a verified organization, your events will display in this area as well. And remember, they are all scheduled events that happen at a particular time, at a particular day, and they have an arbiter in charge of those events. They're live arbiters in charge of these events. You cannot run a hands-off tournament on Tornelo. You can't just come in and play a casual game anytime you want. It's not a platform for on-demand chess. The best way that I can recommend for players to enter your events is to do that themselves. Now, it is possible. Okay, I'll show you. I'll show you that one later. It is possible for players to be imported. You can import players into an event or enter them yourselves as an arbiter. But the best way to do this is always to allow the players to register themselves for an event, because at some point in time, they're going to be coming back to the platform and they're going to need to sign in and have an account in order to play a game online. So they may as well set their account up right at the start and self-register for the event. You know then for sure that they're going to be able to play their games. So we're going to browse through some of these upcoming events, and we're going to select an event that we'd like to play in. And when you get to the event, the players themselves will always see what we call a tournament lobby. So tournament lobby is like a live page where the players go, and at the top of the page there's this message bar, and this message bar will tell you everything that you need to know, and the players just kind of need to focus on this area at the top of the page and follow the instructions that are delivered to them there. So at the moment it's telling you enjoy spectating. You know, you're just a spectator on this event, and of course anybody can come along and watch those events if it's a public event. For this, we want players to actually register for the event. Now, if they've been invited already, or they've registered through a different process, so for example, in the World Youth and Cadets Championships, they will have registered through their federations. The federations will have sent those registrations to FIDE, and FIDE will have imported that list of players into Tornelo. When you import the list of players into Tornelo, it will send an email to all of the players inviting them to create a password, but it also creates the account for them immediately. So even if a player does not get an email, they can come back to Tornelo and they can click sign in, and they can use their email address. If they don't know what their password is, they just click the reset password button, and they'll be able to actually sign in or reset their password and then sign into the event. Okay, I'm going to sign in now with an account that's been created before. And once you've signed in, and you can go through a process of creating an account and signing in and entering all at the same time, so it does kind of make it easy for the users. We've now got an extra button here. We've got an enter arbiter token and an enter now button. So if my name is already in the event and I can see my name is here, then I've probably got kind of a mismatch on my accounts, and I've signed in with a different account from the account that controls the player. Okay, and so that's when you would use an arbiter token, and you would communicate with the arbiter, and I'll show you how the arbiter will provide tokens to players later on. And the arbiter could then allow that player to participate in the event with like a one-time PIN. So it's a 4-digit number that you can give to your players, and you can allow them to kind of bypass that account system. So here my name's not in the event yet, so I'm going to actually enter this event. When you enter the event, you can either add players to your account, or you can select players that are already on your account. Now, of course, one person who's registering can have multiple players on their account. You can have a parent with 2 or 3 children, and they can enter multiple players. And the same thing works in reverse. One player could have multiple email addresses associated with their account. So it's a very flexible system, which allows one player to sign in with their or to register for a tournament with their parent's email address, and then sign in with their own private email address later on. And that's really important. For example, if there's payments going on, and a parent might be registering and putting the credit card in to pay an entry fee, but then the player comes back and actually takes part in the game themselves. So we're going to now register some players. As we go through the registration process, it will ask us to select a division or a section, an entry fee if there's an entry fee in the event, and maybe even a team if there's a team's event as well. Let's see if I can spell correctly. All right, so if there's other information that's required by the organisers, you can add some additional information in these spaces here. Okay, the other information is completely optional, and you can add that if the system doesn't yet know some of that information. All players are asked during the registration process for a contact phone number and an email address. Now, this contact phone number and email address is for you as the organizer of the event, because you want to be able to communicate with your players during the event. Right? If there's a problem, you want to get in touch with them. If you want to communicate with them before the event to let them know about the regulations, about warm-up events, about practice sessions, whatever it might be. So the players will always be asked for an email address and a phone number. But after the event, you also want to be able to add those contact details to your own database so that you can build your organization. You can grow the number of people who are playing in your events over time. And Tornelo's goal is to support you as an arbiter and an organizer to build your events and to actually end up with more players playing more often, paying more entry fees, and at the end of the day, more people playing chess across the world. So we'll just, after the players have confirmed, added their contact details, they just get a confirmation page, and then they're now registered for the event. If you've registered multiple players, when you come to the tournament lobby, it will ask you who you are for today. So I'm Hermione, and I'm jumping in, and I'm now ready to sort of interact as this player. So if you're signed in correctly into the tournament lobby and everything's looking good, you will always see your name. If there's a profile picture, if you've used that, and there'll be a message bar across the top here. So remember the message bar is that's the important area. Now, the first thing that it'll ask you to do, this is before the event started. Before the event started, it will ask you to confirm that you're ready to play the games. And this is no different from an over-the-board chess tournament. The first thing that you need to do when everybody comes to the over-the-board tournament, you need to know who's actually there, because sometimes people register but don't show up. And you don't necessarily want to pair those players in for the first round. Okay, so there will be a process that you go through. And for the World Youth and Cadets Championships, we're actually asking players to register, to check in well in advance, right? Because what the check-in process does is it verifies that the players are actually signed in with the correct email address, that they've got an account that works, that they can interact with the system, that they know where this box is. You know, there's a number of things that this does to help the system. So if you're here, the first thing you would need to do is click the box, and by clicking that, you put a check mark in the box, and you can see if we scroll down, you've now got the player's name with a check mark next to their name to say that they are here and ready to play. You'll also notice a green light next to the person's name and a timestamp. This tells you, and the arbiters get to see this view as well, all of the players' connection status in the tournament before it starts. So not only will you see the green check mark to see whether players are actually have actually checked in, but you'll be able to see whether there's maybe some problems. Maybe the person has arrived but not checked in. So you can see here they haven't checked in, and they were in the lobby 1 minute ago. They've got a connection, so you can then try and find out, well, maybe they just haven't checked the box and they need to go and check that box. All right. You can see if somebody has got a grey dot, they're completely disconnected, and there's no timestamp, so they've never connected to this tournament. Okay, so you get to see, or a yellow light if they're just kind of wandering off and watching YouTube videos on another page, and they're not fully connected. All right. Once you've ticked the box and you're here and ready to play, the arbiter, whenever they are ready, gets to start the game. All right. So the arbiter can wait for all the players to get here. Now Harry's here as well, so we can start the games at the time that is most appropriate for them to start. So when you start the game, what the player will first of all is hear a sound. When they hear a sound, then they'll see a message at the top of the screen telling them that they've got a game. And so in this case, Hermione is black against Jar Jar Binks, and there's a button that says play now. So the player will wait for the message in the top. They'll see the play now, they'll hear an audio sound, and then they'll be able to click that button to join their game. Okay, so they click the button, and here is the game. We can see the connection status of the players. The player will see a green icon next to their name because they are connected, and they'll see a red icon next to their opponent's name if their opponent is not connected. Okay, so you cannot start your game until both players are present. That's just common courtesy. You don't want to be starting a game before the other person is at the chessboard, but the arbiters actually can change that setting if you wanted to. So if you wanted to allow people to start without your intervention or without waiting for their opponent, you can actually change that, and I'll show you where that happens later on. When the opponent connects, okay, here we go. White's now connected. Both players are at the board. Then the player can start the game. Now the game works exactly the same way as any platform. You click and drag a piece, or you can click and then click on the destination square that you want to move it to. All right, so just a normal game of chess from here. You play the game. A couple of things that are maybe different from other platforms. The first one is if you have any troubles or problems or questions during the course of a game, just like if you were in an over-the-board tournament, you can call the arbiter. So maybe the player says, oh, okay, I need to call the arbiter for some reason here. You click the button, call the arbiter. it pauses the clocks, and now you can send a message to the arbiter, or the arbiter can send you a message. So here you go, the arbiter has sent you a message, how can I help? To go to the, okay. So arbiters can send message back and forth with the players, sorry, after the game, right? And all the players, both players, black and white, can see what's going on, so there's no secrets between the arbiters and the players. If the arbiter wants to, the arbiter can also make some adjustments to the clock. So maybe the arbiter says, well, that was an inappropriate arbiter call. We're going to penalize you 2 minutes. Oops, I've penalized the wrong person 2 minutes then. Apologies for that. Let's penalize Hermione 2 minutes. There we go. So you can penalize, you can adjust the clocks, arbiters can do all that. And when they're ready to go, they can resume the game. And black can then continue on sorry, in this case, it's white's turn to move, can continue on with their game. Okay, so white will make a move. All right, the other normal features, offering a draw or resigning, those buttons are there. Offer a draw and confirm, the draw offer has been sent. After you've made a move, there is also, again, a feature which is able to be set by the arbiters. Will you allow a player, if they've done a finger slip, to request an undo, to request a take back of the move? So in maybe a beginner's tournament, you might allow that. And if the opponent accepts that take back, then your move gets taken back and you can continue on with the game. Right? Maybe you want to make a different move. Right? But obviously that's not compulsory. The opponent doesn't have to accept a take back. They can just play the move. So you can request a take back. The opponent can ignore that, just make a move, and the game continues. When the game's finished, results come through automatically into the tournament lobby, and the player should return to the tournament lobby. So we'll go to the lobby here. And when you're in the tournament lobby, kind of just hang around here and wait for the next round. It'll tell you at the top of the page here, everything that you need to know. So there's this circle icon here, kind of tells you one of 3 states. You're either red, orange, or green. Green means it's time for your game. Orange means you're kind of waiting around, and red means there's a bit of a problem if you're actually trying to play the game. Okay, so you're a spectator if you're red. So when you're in the tournament lobby, the players can go through the rounds, round 1, round 2, round 3, whatever it might be, and they can watch games or view games as the case may be. Okay, so you can watch any game. Watching a game is a live game in progress. So you can click in and you can see the live game that's in progress. Or you can click through to view a game, and you would view a game which is already completed. So let's say, for example, that a player is withdrawn from the tournament. Okay, player will be withdrawn, and they'll see a message saying, "Oh, you're not going to be paired anymore." You can see the red icon. You're not going to be paired in the next round. And let's do the pairings now for the next round. So I'll just put some results in, and as the results come in, the lobby will automatically update, as you would expect. And when the arbiter is ready, the arbiter pairs the next round. There's the pairings for the next round. But this Hermione here was withdrawn. If for some reason she wants to come back, just click the rejoin button, unwithdraw yourself, you're back in the game. This now shows you a message saying that you're unpaired. You can contact the arbiter and say, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to withdraw. I actually want to play here." And the arbiter can add you back to the game. And here, like you can see in round 2, we've now given Hermione a bye, and she's got a bye here. So these are the sorts of things that a player will get to see in the tournament lobby during the course of the game. Okay, so all of these messages here are really what the player needs to focus on. Now, one of the key things, what else do we need to know about players? Okay, so of course the players do always ask the question, can you change your settings on your chessboard? And yes, you can. You can go into your account settings here, and you can change the chessboard to whatever color you'd like it to be. And then you can go back to your, actually we'll go back to the home page so you can see how to navigate back to the actual tournament games as well. So yeah, that's one of our most frequently asked questions is, can you change the color of your chessboard? The answer is yes, you can. All right, so let's go back to the tournament. And if we were to now look at a game in progress, you'll see the chessboard's got a different color. How exciting. All right, so one of the most important things about the tournaments on Tornelo is that it is a community experience. So we are trying to make it as close as possible to an over-the-board tournament. So number one, we ask the players always using their real names. Right? We connect their real names, if possible, with the FIDE ID, so that you've got a link up to a real profile, or maybe it's to a local chess federation or a national chess federation's ID numbers, so we can store multiple IDs for different rating systems. But it's really important that we're using a real name, because that's the first step in building trust amongst the players in the tournament. And obviously we'll talk about fair play a little bit at the end of this session, but we do want to build trust amongst players in the tournament, and using a real name, building a player profile is one of the first things that you can do. Obviously having a visible arbiter present that we can interact with, and then hopefully having repeat interactions so that you meet the same people on a regular basis. Once a player's been playing in tournaments on Tornelo for a while, they will build up a player profile. So I'll just show you a player profile of one of the players who's been playing for a long time. Okay, this one has been playing since 2011. So we've got 9 years worth of player history here, and each of these is a different tournament that the players played in. They've represented a number of different groups over the time. They're linked up with their FIDE ID, and you can now see every single result of every single tournament that has been played on Tornelo, going back as far as you like. As you go through those tournaments, players can also click on any tournament, and then that will take them into the details of the event. And so arbiters, players, spectators, everybody gets the same view over a tournament. So this is what you will see when you're running a tournament, for example. You'll see a tournament with perhaps multiple divisions for different age groups or age categories. You'll see a tournament with a player list and a number of different rounds, your pairings, and then of course even the games that have been played are included all in the one view. You can collect entry fees and registrations directly into Tornelo, and you can see here that a number of players have had paid their entry fee during the entry process. So it's always just, we set up one page, it's one URL. We want everybody to just use one URL the whole time. It's the same web page to register for the tournament. It's the same web page to come back and play your games. It's the same web page to view the results afterwards. It's the same web page to download the PGN files. It's always the same URL at all times. If you want to collect entry fees, it's very simple. You just set the entry fee on the tournament. When the players register, they pay the entry fee by credit card. And if for some reason you don't get an entry fee later on, you can just add it and then email the invoice to the player, all from Tornelo, and they can all pay it straight away. So at the end of the day, you want to see a big bunch of green signs next to your players, and you know that everybody's paid and in the tournament. Of course, if you see any red ones, then you can chase them up, or you can just let Tornelo chase them up. Next time that player signs in, they'll see a message saying that that they owe some money. Okay, so there's the email invoice button. You would just click that. The player gets emailed the invoice, and you're done. I'm just going to set that to a free entry fee so that this player doesn't get emailed invoices and told to play. This is what the players see. Players also get an opportunity to download the PGN, the full PGN file from the tournament. You can have it with clock times or without clock times. But as an arbiter, you'll get a little bit more information as well. Okay, so you will also get a TRF report. So that's a tournament results format report. You can download that TRF file and use that to import it into Swiss Manager, and then get those results onto Chess Results, for example. You can use that to submit directly to FIDE as a FIDE ratings report. So if you're using an over-the-board tournament, you've got this TRF file that you can download and transfer data. You've got an export entries button, and that will export all of the entries in the tournament, the players' names, phone numbers, email addresses, so that you can add all of those contact details to your player database. Okay, so export entries, and you'll have a fair play report, which we'll have a look at the end of the tournament as well. So that's all of the steps that the arbiter has. So let's now show you the scenes from this tournament that we were playing in before. And so here we have the behind the scenes view, which is the arbiter's view of the tournament. So the first thing we'll look at is just all the tournament settings, which normally an organizer would create when they're setting the tournament up. Here we can see them. We just click on edit, and we're going to zoom through a few of these features. So the first section here is just dates, times, time zones, name of the event. Pretty straightforward. We've got some magic that happens behind the scenes. If you've got multiple events with the same exact name, it strings them all together into what we call a series, which is pretty cool. But that's we can talk about that in some more advanced sessions. We've got a privacy settings. So for FIDE events, of course, any FIDE rated or rated event should be a public event because ratings must be transparent. But not everybody wants events to be fully transparent. Maybe they want them to be in some way private. So we have 3 different privacy settings: public, community, and private. Private means literally that you need it's a secret link. You can't find that any other way. Community means that you can only find it if you're signed into Tornelo. So it's not searchable by Google, can't be found on the web, and public, of course, is just public. So community is a pretty handy setting for school groups or youth events where you don't want them to be searchable by Google, but you still want people to be able to kind of see each other and play publicly. Even a private event, players obviously in a tournament can always see one another, and arbiters can see them, and so forth. In the player's view, let's just skip back to the player's view again. We also have this button here to join the Zoom room or the video conference. So like I said, we want to try and keep everything in one place, one page. So the player comes to the page, and they can click this button here, which will open a Zoom meeting for them. And so generally, as an arbiter for an online tournament, you will have a Zoom meeting or some sort of video conference. This doesn't have to be Zoom. It can be any video conference that you like. And then that will be the place where you'll communicate with the players more directly. And that's the place where you'll actually be doing some supervision of the players. So you simply put that conference integration link in here. And when you put that link in there, it shows up on the tournament lobby page for the players, and players can just click straight through. In our advanced seminars, I'll talk about some of these secondary conference integration links and how you can direct players in specific divisions to different Zoom rooms and all sorts of things like that. These are our game rules. So we've got a variant. We've got Take Me Chess in there just for a bit of fun. You can enter an FEN position and start from a different position. So you could play Chess 960 or Fisher Random Chess, or you could play fixed openings tournaments. You can start from any position. This is our clock settings. So 15 minutes plus 10 seconds a move. These are our clock rules and other rules about the game. Can you start the clocks? Can you pause the clocks? Can you cancel arbiter calls, etc., etc. Our other game rules are, the Sophia rules. When can you offer a draw? Maybe you only want to be able to allow the players to offer a draw after 10 moves. You can put in, okay, you can't offer a draw in the first 10 moves. No grandmaster draws. And then your threefold repetition claims. So by default, we default to a 5-fold repetition and a 75 move draw, which is the FIDE regulations, but you can change that to make it a more common 3-fold and 50 moves, where the players don't have to claim a 3-fold repetition, and it's just automatically done by the server. But the default settings would be 5-fold repetition, and then the players would claim after 3. Multiple divisions, entry fees, if you want entry fees, and that shows you everything about the tournament registration process. Okay, so we'll go back to, or the kind of creating the tournament and the tournament settings. Once you're in the tournament, player list, we've got, as I said, invoices. You can add, delete, change invoices, send people emails. You've got then pairings for the rounds. We've got the ability to enter results manually, wait for results to come in automatically from the online games, change results if you need to, change pairings if you need to. So if we say, oh, we want to repair Hermione and Han against each other, we'll just put Hermione in this spot here, and it pairs these players up against one another. Okay, I'll just, oops, sorry, just take that off the forfeit and put it back to an unknown result. So you've got full control over results. You can observe games yourself as well, and by observing games, you'll have all of the controls in the games to declare a draw, pause clocks, adjust clocks, start a clock before the game, if you want a player to start. So pause the clock, adjust the clocks, restart the games, and a full log of everything that's happened in the game as well, so that you know what happens. I'll just declare that game a draw. And the pairings program, you do need to just reload the page to bring everything in. You've got 3 different tournament settings. We go into the tournament settings here. You can run a tournament as a round robin, as a individual Swiss tournament using JavaFo. So JavaFo is the same pairings engine that is used in Vega or Swiss Manager. So if you're using JavaFo as a pairings engine, you should get exactly the same pairings as you would get in any other pairings program that's using that engine. It should just give you exactly the same pairings. Or you can use Tornelo's inbuilt algorithm, which gives you the ability to play a sort of an individual teams tournament. If you're not happy with, or you don't want to use an inbuilt pairings engine, you can import. So let's just delete a couple of rounds, and I'll show you if you wanted to import some information. So you can import a CSV file to get players into the tournament. So let's just import players into the tournament, and here you go. Ron Weasley's going to be imported. It's going to link him up with his FIDE ID, and all of this information was just in the CSV file. Okay, so the CSV file, I'll just show you for completeness sake. A CSV file is just really an Excel file. You've got all the player contact details in a table here, all the information that you want to import. When you import that, boom, you've now got an extra player in the tournament here. So here we go, Ron Weasley's in the tournament as well now. This will also have created his account, emailed him, invited him to take part, and everything else that you would need to do so that he can just sign in and start playing the games. We can also, if you're using an external pairings program, you can also import a PGN file. So this would be like a PGN headers file. So let's show you what that looks like as a PGN file, and then show you the import. So PGN file would just show you player names and an unfinished game. So you can generate this as a PGN export from most pairings programs. They'll give you an export of a live PGN file for DGT boards and so forth. So this is the PGN file of the round, and you import that round. And by importing the round, it will just create the pairings. Okay, so we've now, go back to the pairings program. We've now got the pairings for round 1 that we've imported. Obviously, you can still continue to edit pairings manually if you wanted to, but it's imported some pairings into the system for you. Okay, so it's very simple to just run around and change things as need be. You'll see all of these red lights next to the players' names. Those are connection status. So if a player connects to the game, you will see that light go green. So Mace Windu is just connected, his light's gone green. If he disconnects and somebody else connects, let's say Luke connects, Luke's light goes green and Mace has gone red. If they're both connected, then you'll see that they are both green, and you know that then everything's kind of going smoothly. So you've got full insight during the course of the event. All the time, you can see everything that's happening. You can see who's connected to all of the games. As an arbiter, you'll also be in the tournament lobby, and in the tournament lobby, when an arbiter call comes in, you can see the player is called an arbiter. You can just click on this, click through here, and you're in the game with the arbiter, with the players. You can have a chat, resume the game, go back to the tournament lobby, wait for the next person to call the arbiter. Keeps it exciting. So you've got everything that you need in the tournament lobby there as well. So, oops, that was me with closing the window that didn't need to be closed just yet. All right, so that's the kind of the basics of running a chess tournament. Most of it's fairly straightforward. If you've used any pairings program, it will give you most of the features that you would normally expect in a pairings program. And obviously, all the games are live through the tournament lobby. So how do you actually get started and create a tournament? All tournaments belong to what we call an organization. So an organization is essentially a logo, it's an entity. And remember, Tornelo, our goal is to try to help organizations to build their own brand, their own presence, their own community of players online. So if we go and look at the live system, we can see a number of organizations that are already on Tornelo, and they may have run 8,000-9,000 events, or they may have run only a handful of events. So all of these are an entity in themselves. They're an organization. So European Chess Union gets a little bit of a kind of presence and branding. So you've got a logo, you've got your own website, email address, phone number, description, and then of course all of your tournaments, both upcoming, completed, and upcoming and completed tournaments, and in the organization. That's kind of the homepage, I guess, for where your players would come to your organization to see what are the next tournaments that they'd like to join in and take part in. An organization is the first step in what we call a chain of trust. So in order to become a verified organization, you need a 5-minute conversation with me on Zoom, where we just verify that you are a genuine organizer, a genuine person running a genuine series of tournaments. And then from there on, you can then allocate roles to other people within the organization. So you can allocate, multiple organizers, and all of those administrators or organizers can now create events for your organization. They can collect entry fees into your bank account in those events. Each of those people, when they create the actual event themselves, can also then chain that trust further on, and they can provide access to one of these tournaments to a single person that you would call an arbiter. Okay, and so your arbiter would be only able to access this one tournament. They can do everything about that tournament, but that's the only thing that you can do. Okay, so you've got this chain of trust where you've got organizations that can allocate administrators, and then you can allocate from there to arbiters. So there's a bunch of and I like it when people actually create with their logos and get a bit of colors and logos and things. Get a little bit of sort of branding going. FIDE, of course, has their own profile page as well. So this is the FIDE page, and you'll notice that we've got a series of upcoming events. So these are all of our practice events coming up over the next few days. So particularly for players who are, or federations, you've got players who are playing in a World Youth and Cadets Championships coming up soon. We strongly recommend for all of your players to take part in at least one practice event on Tornelo, just to get familiar with the platform. Really to make sure that they've got an account, they can sign in, they know where the Play Now button is. It'll just make their life just that little bit easier. They're not trying to deal with something new on the first day of their first tournament game. All right, so there's a free tournament every single day in all different time zones, like every day this month. So you can send your players, they can come here, they can go to the Tornelo homepage, and they'll have access through the homepage. Okay, so we've got our calendar of events here. The next one is in Malaysian Standard Time, in Kuala Lumpur time. Obviously, we've got UTC time as well, but you can play in any of those events. These events are open to anybody in the world, all right? So it doesn't have to be just players who have qualified into youth championships. This is absolutely possible for anybody and everybody to play in. So send it out to all players in your federations. use it for yourselves to come and play and get a kind of a hands-on experience of how it's all going to work on the day of the event. We welcome anybody and everybody to take part. Find an event that suits you at your time zone. Okay, so those are all of those events there. If you want to set up your own organization and also create some tournaments and practice running some tournaments or run online events that are arbiter-led scheduled events that you fully control, you're welcome to do that. You just click run an event up in the top once you've got an account, and that will create a new a new organization for you. So you'll get a page that looks like this. You'll be asked to create an organization. You can choose your logo and whatever your favorite color is, and give yourself a little bit of branding presence when you've got your details. So FIDE's got their color and their logo and all of their contact details and so forth. Contact details only come after you've verified yourselves, but you can at least get the organization started, run some practice events for yourselves, and see how that goes. All right. I just want to spend 3 minutes just briefly talking about fair play and what Tornelo does in terms of trying to build an environment where people are playing fairly in their tournaments. So there are 3 things, and we've got a much longer webinar than 3 minutes. It's about 2 hours, and it talks about fair play in some detail. So, for now, I'll just give you the really brief overview, which is that there are 3 things, there are 3 steps to achieving fair play in online tournaments. There is no silver bullet. There's no one magic thing that you can do and everybody all of a sudden plays fairly. It's an extremely difficult environment to be in. Online, anything is psychologically, a bit challenging for people, especially for younger players or teenagers, people with what we call psychosocial immaturity, right? There's impulse control. It's very easy to get assistance. You feel anonymous. There's a bunch of stuff that makes it really easy to do the wrong thing. So the first thing that we want to do is we really want to support. We want a supportive environment so that the players are feeling like they're in an environment which is set up for fair play. So there is no anonymity. You must use your real name. There's a visible authority figure. There's an arbiter sitting right there talking to them. They've got repeat interactions with the players that they're playing with. They can see them in Zoom, so they can build some empathy. So the environment is the first thing, and it's really important because without a supportive environment, you can't really solve the problem in any way, right? And think about it the same way that you would if you were trying to solve an obesity epidemic or a petty, shoplifting or graffiti sort of criminal activities that happen in the real world. Without a strong supportive environment, it's just never going to work, right? If you're asking somebody to eat healthy food, but then in their pantry you're only giving them cake and chocolate, well, of course they're not going to be able to fulfill their goals. The second thing is supervision. Supervision on Tornelo is usually via a Zoom meeting or some sort of video conference, and the supervision will reflect the level of event. So in the World Youth and Cadets Championships, that will obviously be quite a high level of supervision. So in that event, all of the players will be required all of the time to have their cameras on so that we can supervise their playing area through a video feed 100% of the time. They will also have a screen share running. So whatever device they're using to play their games, that will be a screen share, and we'll be able to see what's happening on that computer. So at an open world championship event or a high prize money tournament, you might see multiple cameras from multiple angles being used in order to supervise players. But supervision is critical. And then the third and final stage is verification. Now, Tornelo will run a verification report, which we call a fair play report, which will provide some insight to arbiters about what's been happening in those games. This report tells you the basic statistics about centipawn loss, that is how close to a computer will players be playing, and move match, like how many moves are perfectly matching the computer, and it sorts those players in order top to bottom the top player is the one who is most like a computer. The one at the bottom is the one who is least like a computer. So this just gives you a little bit more information round by round about which players you should be paying a bit more attention to in the supervision stakes. And I usually reach out to the players who are at the top of the list after the first even 1 or 2 games, which is not really enough data to give you a conclusive result, but it can tell me that there are people who need a little bit more supervision. And I will go to those players and I will say to them, congratulations, well done, Marco. You have shown me that you are playing well above your rating. You're performing extremely well at the moment, and I want to protect that result. You know, I want to be on your side, and at the end of the tournament, if somebody does lodge a complaint or says that there was some assistance used, as an arbiter, I want to be able to stand up for you and say, no, it's not possible that he got any assistance because I was supervising him closely. I could see what was happening in their playing area. There was no electronic devices. There was no assistance happening in that playing area. I could see their screen share. I know there was nothing going on there. And I actually asked the player to be on my side. So we're not combative anymore. We're not the enemy, but now we're on the same team. And you're going to get much more trust. And with trust comes good behavior. All right. So this is a process that we're going through. It's not, like as I said, a silver bullet. There is a process that you have to go through to build trust amongst the players. And you end up with some verification of whether that trust was, is working or not, and you'll get some insight. We don't make any decisions for you, so we will not remove a player automatically. It's too easy to get it wrong or to remove somebody that you don't maybe want removed for whatever reason that might be, even if they did have some assistance. So we don't do that. We provide you as the arbiter with all the information you need. You make your own decisions. This is something that we're working on, where we're going to have some visualizations of this data as well, where you can see, you know, the yellow dots are low ratings scrolling down to the blue dots, and which are higher ratings. And then you can sort of go, well, why are there 2 light green dots, which are really low rated players, all the way out here, far, far away from all the rest of the players who are at their own rating level. So you'll be able to see, you know, we are working on some of these visualizations that will help you with your events. So I know that was just a bit of an overview. Yajina, have you got some questions for us? And let's see if we can answer a few questions for players. So, all right, we have one question which has come in. Are we able to offer Tornelo in any other languages? I have seen actually a number of players, particularly in South America, just using like an automatic translation, like Google's Translate. We are trying to be as, I guess, as, what do we call it? Kind of language agnostic as possible. So we're trying as much as we can to make sure that there are, you know, buttons and icons and logos more than there are kind of words. So there'll be buttons and icons that will help players. But yeah, I have seen people using the automatic translate feature, and that's been okay. We're still, you know, we're still quite far off, you know, actually being able to solve everything because we're still quite new. So can players ask the arbiters questions in other languages? Yes, during the youth championships, there will be arbiters. Marco, you want to answer those questions? Great.
Yes, if I may say something about languages. We have a team speaking 21 languages, and we will divide players between the calls according to their language. So there will be 1 Spanish-speaking channel, 1 Russian-speaking channel, 1 French, and several other options.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions about what's going to be happening on the day? So the main things that you should take away from today are how the players are going to be joining. So all of the information we showed at the start about the players joining the tournament, putting that check mark, that green check mark in the box in the tournament lobby, and then explaining to the players how they're actually going to be playing their games. Okay, so these are the kind of key things that that players are going to need to be able to do in order to play their games. all the players will have received an email already. So that or as soon as they've registered, they'll, with FIDE, and those registrations come through the federations and into Tornelo, they'll receive an email address, and then they'll be able to sign in to Tornelo and play from there. If they didn't receive an email, once they've registered and they can see their name in the tournament, then they can just sign in. They can reset their password and sign in, and just see whether it gives them the check mark and gives them the option to play. If they sign in with their email address and they see a message saying they're spectating the event, then players, you need to get in contact with your captain. Captains will get in contact with FIDE and will update the email addresses. You know, we do find that 10 or 20% of players, when they first register, use a completely wrong email address or put a spelling mistake or something in their email address. So if they get to the tournament lobby page and it says you're spectating the event, and I can show that to you again just to make it clear. If it says you're spectating the event, then you want to get in touch so that we can update your email address. So if I just share the screen, all right, you'll see a message like this: spectating. If you see a red icon when you're signed in, if it says sign in, please get in there and sign in. Right, and once you've signed in, if it gives you a player name and you can see the player's name here and it tells you everything's okay, then you're good to go. Right? If it says you're spectating the event still, then your email address has not been input correctly, and it's easy for us to update that. Don't panic even if you get there on the day of the tournament. Even on the day of the tournament, if it says that you're spectating the event, we can still connect the player to their player account very, very quickly and easily. We create a token, we saw that before, and you can get players in using a token. So that's pretty quick. Question about pre-moves. Tornelo is trying to replicate as much as possible over the board chess tournaments. And an over the board chess tournament, you may not move a piece before your opponent has finished their move. So there are no pre-moves permissible in Tornelo. You've got to make your move after your opponent has completed their move only. When will the players be on the tournament? So as soon as Tanya, who's the pairings officer for the event, as soon as she receives that file with all of the registrations, it will be created immediately. So within a few hours, the players should all receive an email and they can come in and create their accounts. If they create their accounts beforehand, if it's the same email address, it's going to match up and everything's going to be fine. Okay, so you can actually come in and create an account anytime that you like. You can play in a practice event. It's a great idea to organize a practice event if you can, whether that's you organizing one yourselves or playing one of the FIDE practice events that are scheduled every single day this month. And if players sign in and create their accounts before they've received the email, it's not going to be a problem. It'll connect that up with them afterwards. Can you organize team events on Tornelo? Yes, so with the FISU World Universities Championships, that was run with the Olympiad style teams format. We don't support teams pairings at the moment automatically. We're working on that and that'll be out early next year. So for the time being, if you're running a teams event similar to the Olympiad, you would be doing the pairings in an external pairings program and using that PGN import to import the pairings into Tornelo. And so we've had a number of major events that were run using that import process, and you can certainly run any event in that way. All right. Any other questions for players or about what's happening during the Youth Championships? Marco, is there anything else that you would like to share? Oh, sorry, Marco, you're muted.
No, I think it's enough for now. as this webinar is just to inform people about how the platform will work. What I strongly advise is to try to immediately log in the platform if you already received the registration email and see if everything is working properly, as well as trying to run one practice event. We have one practice event per day, so till the beginning of the tournament you can practice in 12 different tournaments, and the more you will practice and the more we will be sure that the tournament will run smoothly. In any case, you will receive one email from me this evening asking if there is any further clarification needed. In case something is not clear, please get back to us. We have appointed one official just to help people to register and log in the platform and practice events. So there will be maximum assistance from us to be sure that in a couple of weeks you will be ready to play.
Yeah, I've got to stress that again. Get your players to play a practice event. That way, all of their account issues, that all of their screen size, they say, oh, my screen's too big, my screen's too small, I can't see the whole chessboard. If they need to learn how to zoom things, they need to adjust the screen, they need to adjust the chessboard. If they're playing on a mobile phone and then they're in a practice event, we'll tell them that's not going to be permitted during the real event. They can practice their screen share, they can practice their camera settings. It's such a good idea to have that all out of the way, so when you come into playing the tournament you feel comfortable and confident, and the players can then focus on their games and not worry about the technical side of things. They just focus on their games then.
Maybe, David, we can just tell them once more that this webinar has been recorded and it will be available on Tornelo webpage, as well as there is already a video guide in the Tornelo homepage, and we advise also to review them in case there is any doubt still ongoing.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll email this specific recording to everybody in a few hours.
Yes, Manal, we have 2 arbiters speaking Arabic.
Okay, I think that's everything then for now. If there are any more questions, Chief Arbiter Marco, myself, anyone else, we have plenty of people to support this event. Please feel free to email your questions. We look forward to seeing you at the tournaments, maybe at a practice tournament, and then at the championship event when it starts in a couple of weeks' time. Well, actually less than 2 weeks now. So good luck, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.